Welcome to this explainer. If you look closely at how the world actually operates today, you're going to notice something massive shifting right beneath our feet. Power, the literal invisible architecture that dictates how our entire world runs, is going through a profound structural transition. For centuries, power just evolved alongside whatever system was dominant at the time. We went from ancient empires to modern states, and from rigid, dusty institutions to our modern digital networks. But right now, we're stepping into a completely new era. We're moving away from traditional top-down central control and heading straight toward incredibly complex hybrid networks. So let's dive into exactly how this transformation is unfolding and why the systems governing tomorrow are going to look absolutely nothing like the ones we're used to. First things first, power is not random. It is designed. It's honestly so easy to just assume that influence is this static, natural force. Kind of like gravity, right? Something that just exists. But actually, scratch that. Power is actively built. It completely adapts to our technology, our society, and our behavior. The structures of influence that dictate our global systems are being redesigned from the ground up right now. And to make sense of the future, we have to understand the blueprints of this new design. So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the limits of central control. Then we'll look at the massive shift toward decentralization. After that, we'll introduce a total wild card: AI and algorithmic governance. Finally, we'll synthesize all of that into the new hybrid power model and uncover the wildly fascinating world of emergence and complex systems. All right, Section 1, the limits of central control, or the legacy of top-down authority. To really see where we're going, we've got to understand the legacy we're leaving behind. For most of modern history, the blueprint for power was incredibly straightforward. Governments, legacy institutions, giant corporations, they all acted as the primary centralized decision makers. They were the ultimate choke points that dictated the flow of basically everything. We define centralization as a system where power and decision-making are concentrated in a primary central authority. Picture a traditional government building, or the towering glass headquarters of a global megacorp. Now, to be fair, this structure was highly effective for a very long time. It gave us a clear, stable hierarchy, everyone knew exactly where the final decisions were made, and it allowed us to coordinate humanity on a massive global scale. But like any system, it definitely came with a cost. And that era came with a really distinct trade-off. On one hand, you got profound stability and coordination. Centralization gave us control. But over time, that exact same top-down design created massive bottlenecks, deep inefficiencies, and structural imbalances. As society got more and more complex, relying on a single central brain to process all that information and make every decision, it just couldn't scale. The whole system essentially became overloaded. And when those bottlenecks just became too much to bear, we needed a new model. Which brings us to Section 2, the shift to decentralization, or redistributing the nodes. And when those bottlenecks just became too much to bear, we needed a new model. Which brings us to Section 2, the shift to decentralization, or redistributing the nodes. Now, here's a super important distinction. New digital technologies didn't just delete centralization entirely, they just challenged its exclusivity. For the first time ever, alternative ways of organizing power became completely viable on a global scale. Decentralization at its core is really about the redistribution of control. We're seeing this catch fire across distributed finance, peer-to-peer communication networks, open source software, and decentralized identity systems. In every single one of these examples, control is being actively pushed out across multiple independent nodes. There's no corporate headquarters, there's no single vulnerable central server. Nobody holds all the cards, yet somehow the system still functions, grows, and scales like crazy. But here's the catch. Authority becomes shared, the coordination becomes way more complex. While this decentralized shift successfully breaks down traditional hierarchies and fixes those old bottlenecks, it doesn't magically make power disappear. It just makes organizing it a lot messier. Think about it. When everybody has a say and there's no boss at the absolute top, how do you actually agree on a direction? You lose the simplicity of central control, but you trade it for the incredible resilience of a distributed network. Okay, so just as we were starting to figure out this tug of war, a brand new force entered the chat. Section 3, AI and Algorithmic Governance, the New Mediators. This right here is the absolute wild card in the global power struggle. We are currently witnessing the rise of a totally invisible yet highly influential layer of governance that is driven entirely by algorithmic systems. Artificial intelligence systems are now processing unfathomable amounts of data to assist and, frankly, to augment decision-making across the board. Just look at the scale of this. Algorithms are optimizing logistics in our supply chains, running ridiculously complex financial forecasting, deciding what news millions of people consume every day through recommendation engines, and even automating security risk analysis. Human judgment isn't flying solo anymore. It's heavily mediated by scalable machine logic. Which naturally raises an absolutely critical question. When decisions are assisted, or sometimes entirely filtered by algorithms, where does the accountability actually sit? If an automated dashboard flags a security risk or a financial algorithm triggers a market crash based on machine learning, who is truly in power? Is it the human clicking the mouse, or is it the invisible network of code framing their choices? Because of AI and this ongoing tension between old-school centralization and new-school decentralization, we arrive at a synthesis. Section 4, the hybrid power model, control versus distribution. The reality of the future is that power isn't purely centralized, and it's not purely decentralized either. It's a hybrid ecosystem. The most advanced modern systems have realized they literally have to combine the best of both worlds just to survive. You still need centralized oversight. That's your piece designed purely for efficiency and a unified direction. But at the exact same time, you need distributed execution. You want your operational nodes spread out and decentralized to ensure systemic resilience. That way, if one node goes down, the rest of the system doesn't blink. This hybrid structure is the new baseline architecture for global institutions and digital economies. Now, a really common misconception is that decentralization just equals chaos. It doesn't. Control doesn't vanish in a hybrid world. It just transforms into a highly adaptive form of coordination. Power isn't about sitting on a throne and giving orders anymore. It's much more subtle. It's about setting up the rules of the network in such a way that all the nodes naturally coordinate themselves. And that actually brings us to the bleeding edge of this whole transition. Section 5, Emergence and Complex Systems, the Self-Organizing Future. As our networks grow more and more interconnected, we're realizing that some of the most powerful systems on Earth aren't designed from the top down at all. They literally organize themselves. This phenomenon is called emergence. It's defined as complex behavior arising from simple interactions with absolutely zero central control. It is the exact sweet spot where structured rules and pure unpredictability collide. And it produces these profound, massive shifts in power that absolutely nobody, not a government, not a corporation, not an AI, actually controls. To really wrap your head around this, just look at biology. We see emergence when a flock of birds swoops through the sky in perfect, fluid unison, or when ant colonies build incredibly intricate underground cities. There's no CEO bird or president ant calling the shots, right? The massive, complex structure just emerges from super simple local interactions between individuals. Now, map that exact same biological principle onto our digital world. Global financial markets, vast internet ecosystems, viral trends blowing up on social networks, they all operate on emergence. Millions of tiny human and algorithmic interactions combining to create massive waves of influence that literally no one person designed. So, what's the big takeaway? The future of power is layered. The global system is not fixed in place. No single model, not pure centralization, not pure decentralization, not just AI on its own, fully defines the future. We've realized that power is no longer about just ripping out the old system and replacing it with a new one. It's about stacking these dynamic systems on top of each other. If you look at the evolution of power, it's a clear build. We started in a pre-digital era that was completely dominated by strict centralization and top-down control. Then the digital dawn hit, introducing decentralized networks that finally challenged that monopoly on power. And today, we are operating in a modern era defined by algorithmic systems and these wild, hybrid, emergent structures. Each era didn't erase the one before it, it just compounded, completely reshaping how influence operates as human behavior adapts to new tech. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Understanding becomes the most important form of awareness. The future is not going to belong to one singular dominant system. It's going to emerge from many interacting systems all at once. In a world this incredibly complex and deeply layered, simply holding on to those old ideas of top-down control, it's literally going to leave you blind to how the world actually works. To navigate the future, you don't just need more information. You need deep structural understanding. So as these hybrid networks continue to evolve all around us, ask yourself, who or what is really shaping the choices you're going to make tomorrow? Keep questioning, stay curious, and thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.